Action.
Picture you're a 17-year-old walking with your friends late at night in a park when a man out of nowhere offers you drugs. You say no, so he takes your friend's phone and shoots you. You rush to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Now, this incident was at the beginning of May this year. Parks, in the seclusion of the trees, bushes, playgrounds, you could do things that you normally couldn't do anywhere else, like sell drugs or smoke weed or drink alcohol. It's not really the safest environment for kids.
Yeah, so one thing that's really important about parks is that they're really vital to the public's health. So according to the Wall Street Journal, people who live in areas with nature, such as Golden Gate Park, have less stress in their lives than people who live in urban areas. Also, according to the CDC, childhood obesity and parks and playgrounds have a direct correlation because kids who live near parks have a more active lifestyle, so they decrease in obesity. Also, according to a study by Texas A&M, it shows that surrounding houses, like around the parks, their property value increases by 20%, so that's really helpful just everywhere. However, in San Francisco, in the past 2 years, 49% of our parks have gone down in rating, so all these things could stop happening. So for our research, we looked at the SF Parks Alliance website and the SF Parks and Rec, and they're one of the two biggest contributors to San Francisco parks because they pretty much run them. So in our research on the SF Parks Alliance website, there was a report card that detailed letter grades for all the SF playgrounds. And although only 13% of playgrounds were F and D rated, it's still not good enough because of the fact that we have 220 parks in San Francisco, and they're such an important thing to our environment. And also in this grading, they took into account 5 things. They took into account the signage of the park, so there's signs around directing you, helping you in what's necessary at the park. The surfacing, so if there's sand, it's not good because sand can shift and contain hidden materials that can easily harm a child. They also took into account the equipment, safety, which is the most important thing, according to Julia Bracheres, who is the director of street parks, who we later interviewed about SF playgrounds.
So she said that parks should be safe, but also they need to be innovative and fun for children to be creative and have this adventurous feelings. So she said that they need to have fences surrounding the boundary, and also they need to have really heavy doors so that the kids cannot open them. She also stated that that the sand and rubber, the sand ruins the rubber's traction, and as Ben said, it contains a lot of hidden materials that people drop, like cigarette butts or that sort of thing. And also, a lot of the parks now in San Francisco have pressure-treated wood, which is really bad for the kids because it causes many kids to have splinters, and if they're really old, then a lot of the nails stick out. So the kids also get hurt on that, and they require all of the new structures to be plastic.
Yeah, so we went to 8 different parks in our field research to get the difference between a good and a bad park. And the first park we went to was the Buchanan Street Mall Playground, which was an F-rated park. And when we arrived, there was no one there. It was just completely empty. And even though park structures looked pretty nice, they were plastic. And there were 2 of them, so there was an upper section, a lower section, and they also had basketball courts. However, this is where the safety aspect comes into the grading. The flooring was sand on both of the play structures and contained glass in it and just bottles of beer and stuff. There was also 2 busy streets separating the 2 parks and the basketball courts, so it's really hard for a young kid to cross without supervision. So you have to be really attentive when you're at these 2 parks. Also, on the upper playground, there was a group that was loitering. They had some dangerous materials on them, including knives. So also, when we left that park, we were driving and we noticed another park that turned out to be an F-rated park. It had caution tape on the main play structure where kids would have played. It was also completely empty. There was sand as the flooring, and it was rubbing up against the rubber, destroying its traction and the use of it.
So next we visited the Richmond Mall Park, where a nanny explained to us that her kid got splinters and also they would get hurt by the nails that I explained earlier. Also, near the basketball courts at the Richmond Mall Park, pickup basketball players, after a game or two, they would also cause trouble. Also, and that also accounts for the homeless people. They would come in since there isn't there was an offense protecting it. So a lot of homeless people would just walk in and cause trouble. So the next part we visited was the Correct Playground, which is in the Golden Gate and is an A-rated park in the report card. We thought it was going to be a really safe park based on the fact that it's rated A, but we found some minor or major things about it. So if you look there, it's really humongous, it's enormous, it's a big compound. There isn't really a boundary. The fence is cut off at some points, and there's a lot of potential danger in that, where kids can leave, people can come in. We also, when we got there, a person lost her kid within 2 minutes, so that was, yeah. There was sand there that also interacted with rubber, and yeah.
Yeah, so after that, we went around, well, during that, we asked people we wanted to see how they viewed San Francisco parks. And one thing that we found surprising was that even though parks have been decreasing in rating, people still go to the parks often. Out of the people who we interviewed, only one person didn't go to the park at least 3 times a week. And that was because she was divorced, so she didn't always have her kid in her household. And also, we wanted to see if people viewed the parks as a safe environment. And when we asked, 42% of the people said yes, 42% of the people said no, but 16% said maybe, depending on which park they were at and the neighborhood. And out of the people who said no, we found surprises that it was mostly from Crocker Amazon, which is near Excelsior Playground, which is where the shooting happened earlier this year. So then, there are other organizations like SF Parks Alliance and SF Parks and Rec trying to stop or improve safety in San Francisco parks. For example, in the Google Impact Challenge, which is kind of what we're taking part in, there is an organization called Pogo Park, and they are trying to build 3 safe parks in Richmond because they don't have a really safe neighborhood and the parks are just not good there. And so SF Parks Alliance and SF Parks and Rec are doing their part too. They have $15.5 million from a 2012 park bond to improve failing playgrounds in their safety. But with only $15.5 million, they can only get about 7 to 8 parks completely remodeled, because with $2 to $3 million for average renovation, which includes new flooring, new equipment, new everything, you can only really completely remodel 7 to 8 parks. So that's where the community comes into play and how you can remodel or improve the safety of your parks.
So what can you do? Volunteering is the first option. Parks and Rec and Parks Alliance both have websites where they offer a lot of options for volunteering. But the most important that Dana Ketchum, the leader of Parks and Permits, told us was community involvement and public engagement. You need to renovate a park, you need a permit from the city, but not a lot of people go to these hearings for the permit, so that leaves us with unsafe parks. So what you can do is you can be engaged and go to these hearings, and I think parks can be safe, but it really, it's up to you.
All right.